Welcome back to Protege, where we break down the invisible skills that actually accelerate your career. I'm Molly Jaggers, and today I want to talk about what happens when the systems you were counting on to help you get promoted just disappear into thin air. I know you've probably heard the headlines about how companies are quietly disbanding DEI teams. Mentorship programs are losing funding, diversity hiring goals are being rewritten or removed entirely. And depending on where you sit politically, you're either furious, relieved, or just tired. Tired of the noise, tired of trying to figure out what it means for you. So let's skip the political debate and instead talk about what actually changes for you specifically as a woman thinking about how to take those next steps of your career. As all these programs have been getting cut, the numbers are coming out to show that women are worried. Here's what the numbers say: 79% of women believe these rollbacks will negatively impact their careers. 83% fear fewer leadership opportunities, and almost 9 out of 10 women worry about pay equity going backward instead of moving forward. And look, those fears are real. And if you were at the point in your career where you were an aspiring leader and were benefiting from one of those programs, maybe you were on the leadership development track, mentorship circle, an emerging leaders cohort, engaging in programs like that made it feel like someone was helping to build a path for you, like a promotion was coming and the steps were clear. But here's what no one's truly saying out loud right now either. All those programs, on paper, they were giving you development, training, guidance, and maps for where to go. And some of them did put you in rooms with people who could become sponsors. That access was real. But here's what most women didn't realize: the program itself wasn't the path. The relationships you could build through it were. And most women treated these programs like the destination instead of the doorway. Now, if you've been listening in on this podcast before, you know where I stand with this. Maps tell you where to go. Keys get you in the room. The programs handed out maps. Everyone got the curriculum. But the women who actually got promoted, they did something else with that access. They showed up in a way that attracted sponsors, and they built real relationships with the leaders in those rooms, not just attending sessions. And those relationships became their keys, became people who went into rooms and said their names when opportunities came up. Not because a program assigned them and told them to, because the relationship was real. And that distinction matters more right now than it ever has before. And look, I'm not saying that the programs didn't matter or have impact. For some women, these programs were the first time anyone invested in their development. That's real. That counts. But here's what I've watched happen over and over, both in my own career and in the careers of women I've mentored. Someone joins the leadership development track, they show up to every session, they do the work, they check the box, and they feel like they're on a path, like someone's watching and the promotion is coming. But then the cycle hits, the names go up on a list, and someone else gets the job, or the project, or the opportunity. Someone who maybe wasn't even in the program that they were. Someone who had other people with power and influence in their corner. Someone whose manager went to bat for them in a closed door meeting that nobody in the development track even knew it was happening. And that's not a failure of effort. That's a failure of infrastructure. The program gave you development, but it didn't give you an advocate. Someone who puts their reputation on the line for you, that's what actually moves you forward. And here's the uncomfortable truth: the broken rung was already cracking before any of this happened. 81 women getting promoted to that first manager role for every 100 men. For women of color, it's 54. So again, that rung was broken when the programs existed. The programs weren't fixing it. They were trying to make it feel like someone was trying. And now that illusion is gone. And I know that sounds harsh, but I think it's actually a gift. Because now you can see clearly. No one was ever coming to promote you. The most successful women always knew that. They didn't wait for a program to build their path. They built their own. So today, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. How to build your own advocacy infrastructure. Something that doesn't depend on any company initiative any political climate, or anyone choosing to invest in you. Something you built and own, and nobody else can disband. There's three parts here. First, see where you actually stand. Then, build the relationships that move your career. And then make your work visible without a program doing it for you. All right, let's get into it. Here's where we start. And I want you to actually do this, not just listen to it. Pull out your phone, open a note. This takes 2 minutes, and it'll show you much more about your career trajectory than any performance review ever has. First one is ask yourself one question. Who is talking about me in rooms I'm not in? Not who likes you, not who says, hey, great job after a meeting. Who is actively saying your name when an opportunity comes up? When a role opens? When someone asks, who should we consider for this? Now, most women I talk to answer this with silence. And that's not a failure, that's a gap when you can close. But you can't close it if you can't see it. So think about it this way. Who has influence over your next opportunity? Yes, your manager, but how about their manager? How about the VP who runs your department? That peer who always gets pulled into hiring decisions? Anyone with real power or influence over where your career goes next. Now, go through that list and circle the ones who have actively advocated for you in the last 6 months. Not advised you, not mentored you, advocated. Put your name forward, recommended you for something. Now, for most women, that number is 0 or 1, even the ones who had gone through these formal DEI programs. And that's not because you're not talented or hardworking. It's because nobody told you that this, not the development track, not the training cohort, this is the actual engine of career advancement. All right, so now you know. So let's build it. And you don't need a massive network here. You don't need to become some political operator. You need 3 people playing 3 specific roles to get yourself started. The first is a sponsor. And I know we've talked about this before. If you want to go back to episode 2, you can go real deep into that. For this purpose now, remember a sponsor isn't someone who advises you. Sponsor is someone senior who will put their credibility on the line for you. When a role opens, they say your name. When decisions get made behind closed doors, they push for you. They're not doing it out of charity. They're doing it because your success reflects on their good judgment. So, how do you find one? Well, ask yourself, who has seen my best work and has organizational power? Those 2 pieces have to overlap. Your favorite mentor who's 2 levels below the decision makers? Great person, not a sponsor. The VP who saw you nail the cross functional project last quarter? That's your candidate. And here's the key sponsorship is earned through reciprocal value. You make them look good, you deliver on what they champion. That's how trust gets built, not through a program assignment, but through proof that when they bet on you, they win. The second person you need is a peer advocate. And this is one of the most underrated relationships in your career. A peer advocate is someone at your level who trades visibility with you. So you amplify their work, they amplify yours. You tell each other about opportunities before they're posted. You share intel across what's happening in other departments. You mention each other's contributions in meetings. And why does this matter? Because your peers see things your manager misses. They're in the rooms you're not. They hear about projects and openings before they hit the formal channels. And when 2 people actively advocate for each other, both of their visibility doubles. So, for this one, think about who you genuinely respect at your level. Someone whose work you'd recommend without being asked. That's your starting point. The third is a strategic connector. And this one gets confused with a mentor all the time. So, let me be clear about this one. A mentor is giving you their experience. A connector gives you their network. Completely different. Especially when you're starting out, a mentor or a potential sponsor is usually in your current world, your company, your department, your industry circle. A connector bridges you to the next one. They're the reason you end up on a panel you wouldn't have been invited to, or in a conversation with someone two levels above your usual circle, or hearing about an opportunity in a space you didn't even know was adjacent to yours. Other attributes about this person is that this person is usually 3 to 5 years ahead of where you want to be. And the relationship isn't about getting advice, it's about getting access. And here's the part that makes it sustainable. When they introduce you to someone and you deliver, when you show up well, when the connection actually goes somewhere, that reflects on them. It reinforces their reputation as someone who knows good people. So it's not charity, it's reciprocal. You make their introductions worth making. 3 people, 3 roles. That's the core of what you're building. And the reason you want all 3 isn't just redundancy, it's range. Your sponsor gives you visibility where you are right now. Your peer advocate gives you intel and amplification that travels with both of you, even if one of you leaves. And your connector opens doors to opportunities that you can't see yet in rooms you don't even know exist. This isn't just about getting promoted at your current company. It's about building a career infrastructure that works wherever you go. Because let's face it, people leave, companies restructure, industries shift. So the relationships you build are the only thing that moves with you. When formal government backed DEI programs still existed, there was kind of this illusion of coverage. Oh, I'm in the leadership development track, so someone's got my back. Maybe that was true, maybe it wasn't. But the fact of the matter is, now that illusion is gone. But here's the thing, I wouldn't say you have to be worse off. You're just seeing things clearly for the first time. And now you can build something real. So you've mapped your advocacy, you know the 3 roles you need. Now the question becomes, how do you actually activate off this? How do you go from, I know I need a sponsor, to I have one? Well, it starts with something most women tend to resist: making your work visible. And I hear this all the time. My work should speak for itself. And I get it. I really do. That belief comes from a good place because you were taught that quality matters, that heads down effort gets rewarded, and that the cream rises to the top. But it doesn't, not on its own. And it never has. The difference now is there's no program creating visibility for you. So you either make your work visible or it stays invisible. Those are the only 2 options. And let me be clear here, making your work visible is not the same as self promotion, it's preparation. Here's what I mean. Great way to start with this is start keeping a running document for your eyes only that tracks your impact in the language that decision makers use. Not something like, oh, I worked hard on Q4 reporting. That's effort. Nobody promotes just effort. Instead, something like, I redesigned the Q4 reporting process, reducing turnaround from 5 days to 2, and saved the team roughly 30 hours a quarter. That is impact. And that's something a sponsor can take into a room and use. Now, once you've got this document started, update it every week. Take 5 minutes to do it. That's all it takes. And when the opportunity comes, and it will, you won't be scrambling to remember what you did 6 months ago. You'll hand your sponsor the ammo they need to fight for you. And let me show you what this looks like in practice. Say a promotion cycle is coming, and in the old model, in this program model, you would wait. You'd hope your manager noticed your work, you'd trust the development track, surfaced your name to the right people. But in the new model, your sponsor already knows your highlights because you've been sharing them, not in a braggy way, but in the natural course of keeping them informed. Hey, wanted to flag that the Q4 process change saved 30 hours this quarter. Thought you'd want to know since you've championed this initiative. See, they bring your name up before anyone asks. So you're not discovered, you're discussed. Or let's say a new project opens up. Again, the old model, you'd apply through a formal process, compete with everyone, if you're even lucky and they didn't just select the people on the project without input. In the new model, your strategic connector told you about it before it was posted. Your peer advocate backed your candidacy to the hiring manager over coffee. So by the time that formal process starts, you're already positioned. Now, here's the part most people get wrong. They think building advocacy starts with asking for something, and it doesn't. It starts with giving something. You go first. So this could look like a lot of things. Publicly credit a colleague's work in a meeting, recommend someone for a project they'd be perfect for, forward an opportunity to someone who deserves it, mention a peer's contribution to your shared manager. Why? Well, two reasons. First, people advocate for people who advocate for others. That's not idealism, that's reciprocity. And it's one of the most powerful dynamics in any organization. Second, it builds the muscle. If you've never advocated for someone else, you won't know how to ask for advocacy yourself. So the language will feel foreign and that instinct won't be there. So start giving what you want to receive, and those returns come faster than you'd expect. And while you're doing that, pay attention to who around you is already operating this way. There's usually someone here, the person who says, "Oh, you should talk to blank," more than they say, "Well, here's what I think." The one who's always making introductions, who shows up in multiple professional circles, not just one. Now, to be clear here, they're not the loudest person in the room, they're the most connected. That's your strategic connector. So now you know who to look for there. And one last thing I'll say about this, if you're listening as someone who sponsors or develops talent, here's what I want you to pay attention to. That woman who used to come to you through formal programs, that pipeline got cut. The development tracks, the diversity initiatives, the structured pathways that fed candidates to you, they're disappearing. Which means the women who do find you now, the ones who build their own advocacy and show up with clarity about what they bring, they're showing you something. They're showing you initiative, strategic thinking, and the ability to navigate ambiguity. They've already demonstrated the qualities you want in a leader. The program was a filter. Now you're the filter. So look for the women who are building their own infrastructure. They're the ones worth betting on. All right, so let's put this into action. One thing this week, just sit down and list out who has influence over my next opportunity. And write every name you can think of here: your manager, their manager, the VP who runs the department, that peer who gets looped into hiring decisions, anyone with power or influence over your trajectory. And then ask yourself, which of these people has actively advocated for me in the last 6 months? Circle those names. That's it. Just start to see things a little bit more clearly. Because here's what happens when you do this: you stop operating on assumptions. You stop assuming someone's looking out for you because they smile at you in meetings. You stop assuming the leadership development track was doing its job. Lay the groundwork for your actual advocacy landscape. Now, if you've got 2 or 3 names circled, you're in better shape than most. So protect those relationships, invest in them. If you've got 1 or 0, that's not a verdict on your talent. That's information, and now you know where to build first. You don't need your company to create a program for you, and you don't need anyone's permission to build relationships strategically. You don't need to wait for the political climate to shift back. You just need a piece of paper and the willingness to see your situation clearly. If this episode hit home for you, if you're sitting with that list right now, maybe the numbers were a little lower than you expected. I write about this every week in my newsletter. Tactical frameworks, actual scripts for the conversations, the playbook that no one's handed to you. That's what we go over. Link is in the show notes. Now, I know I started this episode by saying no one's coming to promote you anymore. And I know that lands hard. But here's what I really mean: nobody was ever coming. Not really. The programs were a start, not a solution. Development without advocacy is preparation without a destination. You can be the most skilled, most qualified, and most ready person in the room. And if no one's carrying your name into the rooms where decisions get made, that readiness stays invisible. The difference now is you can see it. The illusion is stripped away. And that clarity, That's actually where power starts because you can't build what you can't see. And now you see it. So build it. Three people, three roles, your work made visible in language that matters. Nobody's coming to promote you. So go build a thing that promotes you instead. That's all for today. I'll see you next week.